talk titled Demystifying the Headscarf for Women's Rights. I'd like to introduce Yasmin Mogahed. Yasmin Mogahed received her BS in Psychology and her Master's in Journalism and Mass Communication from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. After completing her graduate work, she taught at the Islamic Society of Milwaukee and served as After completing her graduate work, she taught Islamic Studies and served as Assistant Youth Director for the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. She is currently a writer and instructor at Cardinal Stritch University, a staff columnist for the Islam Online section of the InFocus news, and a regular contributor to the IslamOnline.net. Her written works include a book chapter on the betrayal of Islam post 9/11, have appeared in print, online, and publication worldwide. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my dear friend, Yasmin Mogahed.
I want to begin by greeting you all with the Islamic and Muslim greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. Whenever I'm asked to speak about women in Islam, I'm never quite sure where to begin. Often I choose to begin with a story that I used to love growing up. I like to begin with the story of the ugly duckling. The story was always very meaningful to me because it showed that things are not always what they seem, and that beauty does not mean being just like the rest. So in the beginning, the mother duck looked proudly at all the beautiful ducklings which had just hatched. But while she did, she noticed that there was one that was different. It was large and not at all like the others. Soon that duck came to be known as the ugly duckling. It was different and didn't quite fit. When God created humanity, there were men, and then there were some who were not at all like the rest. They were women. They didn't run as fast and they cried too much. Those women spent their whole lives wondering, were they just bad copies of men? Am I, as a woman, that ugly duckling? Am I just a bad copy of the standard? Islam tells me no. Islam tells me I'm a swan. You see, as a woman, I am different, but it's meant to be that way. Like that swan among ducks, Islam tells me I am honored by God through my distinctiveness, not my sameness to men. God says men and women are created as a pair, equal but not identical, complementary, not competing. When referring to women, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that women are the shakat of men, meaning other half. God says in the Quran, the believing men and believing women are protectors one of the other. It is further stated in the Quran that they are garments for you and you are garments for them. We are told in the Quran that both men and women are honored in the sight of God by way of their piety and devotion to Him. But in contrast to what I read in the Quran, growing up in this society, we as women find ourselves surrounded by a culture that teaches us that our worth is measured by the shape of our legs. Everywhere we look, we find women on the cover of magazines wearing virtually nothing, their bodies used on billboards to sell cars and to promote beer, their value reduced to how pretty or sexy they are. We as women are taught to give our life, our body, our dignity for the cause of being pretty. Some of us even starve ourselves to fit this standard, as if our bodies were created to be on display or market cars. As women, we learn early on that no matter what we do, no matter how accomplished we might be, we are worthy only to the degree that we can please and be beautiful for men. And so we spend our lives on the cover of Cosmo and give our bodies for advertisers to sell. To see the extent of this, one has only to look at how even professional women in our society are portrayed. Take, for example, professional female athletes. The image was familiar, a woman with no visible clothing decorating the cover of a magazine. But this time the woman was Brandy Christian, defender for the U.S. Women's 1999 World Cup champion soccer team. Although Christian had scored the winning goal during the final game, Gear magazine chose to focus on an asset other than her talent for soccer. Christian was photographed bending over, wearing nothing but 2 soccer balls across her chest. These images are common. Often the only way to ascertain which sport female professionals play, or even that they play a sport at all, is by looking at the type of ball that covers their naked body. In fact, we haven't come very far in the last decade. Just last month, Sports Illustrated featured a picture of Olympic gold medalist Lindsey Vonn next to the headline, "America's Best Women Skier Ever." But what is most telling is how Vonn was depicted. She was pictured bending over in a highly sexualized pose. According to the International Olympic Committee, 42% of competing athletes in the 2000 Summer Games were women. Of the 39 world records set at the Sydney Olympics, 23 were women. The American delegation to the Games was 43% female, and women won 40% of the medals awarded to the Americans. And yet only 6 to 8% of sports news coverage featured female athletes. But what is most telling is that of those athletes that are portrayed, the media often chooses to focus on their bodies and other physical features rather than on their ability as athletes. Olympic champion swimmer Jenny Thompson, for example, was shown in Sports Illustrated wearing red boots, boxer swim pants, and holding her hands across bare breasts. Some images sexualize and dehumanize women to the point of showing only fragments of her body, like her leg or chest. By portraying accomplished women in this way, the focus is taken away from their achievements in their field and towards their achievements as sexy bodies and pretty smiles. Anna Kournikova is one of the best examples of this implication. A famous tennis player, Kournikova was one of the most publicized and highly endorsed female athletes. And yet Kournikova had never won a singles match in all of her career. Why then was she one of the most highly endorsed athletes if she can't play tennis? AskMen.com answers this question beautifully. Under the heading, "Why is she famous?" they write, quote, "Aside from single-handedly making women's tennis popular again, Anna Kournikova is one of the most searched people on the internet, thanks to her amazing looks. She proves that you don't need to be a star tennis player to be one of the most highly endorsed athletes, nor do you need killer tennis skills to have a deadly internet virus named after you." The point here is obvious. If you're a woman, your talent is not in your accomplishments, but in your amazing looks.